Get ready to dream. Close your eyes, the story is about to begin. The heavy, gray clouds hung over the kingdom as if the very sky were mourning the recent loss of Aegon. In the deep, dark cave where Balerion, the Black Terror, had found refuge, the dragon remained imposing, but his soul was steeped in profound sadness. His scales, usually gleaming like obsidian, appeared dull under the faint light that filtered through the cave's opening. Balerion, with his golden eyes, gazed at the horizon where the sun was setting, reflecting his pain in a somber glow. The dragon's breath was heavy, as if each exhalation carried the weight of an entire era. The distant echoes of battles and war cries resonated in his mind, reminding him of the glory he had once shared with Aegon. In those moments of silence, Balerion felt the absence of the knight who had always stood by his side, promising protection and unity to the realm. It was then that young Princess Maris, Aegon's niece, decided to visit the cave, driven by her determination to understand her uncle's legacy and what it meant for Balerion. Upon entering, she came face to face with the vast creature, whose presence was both terrifying and majestic. With a handful of wildflowers in her hands, Maris took a deep breath before approaching, her heart racing. "Balerion," she began, her soft voice echoing in the cave. "I brought these flowers for you. They are beautiful, just like the memories of Aegon." The dragon did not move, his eyes still fixed on the horizon, as if he were lost in his own recollections. Maris, sensing the coldness of the silence, continued, "He loved you, you know? He always said you were more than a dragon. You were an unstoppable force together." With a slow and reluctant movement, Balerion turned his head, his golden eyes locking onto the young woman. There was a glimmer of recognition, but also a deep sadness. In a whisper that sounded more like a muffled roar, he replied, "Aegon is gone. And with him, part of me is gone too." Maris felt a knot form in her throat. "But you are still here. You are the last link that connects us to what was. We need you, Balerion. Westeros needs you." The dragon sighed, a sound that reverberated through the cave walls. "I have failed. He trusted me to protect him, and I could not." "It was not your fault," Maris insisted, taking a step closer. "Aegon knew the risks. He always believed you were more than just a dragon. You are a symbol, Balerion. A symbol of hope and strength. If you give up, what will be left of us?" Balerion closed his eyes, recalling the days when he flew alongside Aegon, the feeling of the wind beneath his wings, the freedom he felt when the sky opened before them. In a vivid flashback, he could see Aegon in his armor, hair blowing in the wind, proclaiming promises of protection for the realm. "Together, we are invincible," Aegon had said, raising his sword in a triumphant gesture while Balerion roared in response. Maris watched the dragon, realizing that every word she spoke was an attempt to reignite the flame that had been extinguished. "Balerion, you cannot let this pain consume you. Aegon wanted you to continue to fight. He always believed that the Targaryen legacy would not end with his death." The dragon opened his eyes, and for a brief moment, she saw a spark of life in them. "What do you know about the legacy? What remains of it besides pain and betrayal?" "I know that pain is part of life, just like hope," Maris replied, her voice steady. "You can still be the legend he envisioned. You can still fly." The cave fell silent as Balerion pondered the young woman's words. The connection between them, though marked by pain, was beginning to form again. Maris, seeing a slight change in the dragon's expression, felt that there was a chance, a spark that could reignite the dragon's flame and bring back not only Balerion but also hope for Westeros. Maris wandered through the Targaryen library, a place that held the memories and secrets of her lineage. The scent of old parchment and dust filled the air, while the soft light of candles illuminated the shelves packed with tomes and grimoires. She felt overwhelmed by the responsibility that weighed on her shoulders. The absence of Aegon and the sadness of Balerion haunted her in every corner of that sacred space. With determination, Maris began to leaf through an ancient book that spoke of dragons and her family's history. The words danced before her eyes, but the pain of her loss made it hard to concentrate. "Why don't you fly anymore, Balerion?" she murmured to herself, wishing the dragon could hear her voice. "I feel like there is still hope." As she turned the pages, Maris found an intriguing passage that spoke of an artifact known as the Heart of the Dragon. It was believed that this object possessed the power to restore the connection between the Targaryens and their dragons. A feeling of anticipation washed over her. If I can find it, maybe I can bring Balerion back to the sky, she thought, her mind swirling with possibilities. She decided she needed more information, and after a long day of research, she finally found a map on a forgotten shelf. The paper was yellowed and worn, but the location of the ancient cave was clearly marked. Maris did not hesitate to honor her discovery. This could be the key to saving our kingdom, she said to herself, clutching the map tightly. However, a feeling of apprehension washed over her. What if it's dangerous? What if I can't do it? Determined to move forward, she prepared her things and left the library. On her way, she noticed that the nobles were becoming increasingly agitated. Whispers of betrayal and conspiracy echoed through the palace corridors, and Maris felt a pang of anxiety. As she approached the gardens, she unfortunately bumped into a group of nobles who were whispering in low voices. "She is just a girl," one of them, Lord Malvern, said with visible disdain in his tone. "The House Targaryen is in ruins. The dragon no longer flies, and the lineage is fading. We need to act before she discovers the map," another noble added, with a conspiratorial glance. Maris, hearing their words, felt a chill run down her spine. If they knew about her quest, the consequences could be disastrous. With her heart racing, she decided she needed help. She remembered Loras, the young knight she had met earlier. He seemed loyal and brave, and perhaps he could be the ally she needed. After several hours of searching, Maris finally found Loras in one of the castle's training rooms. He was practicing with his sword, muscles tense and focus on his face. Upon noticing her presence, Loras stopped and smiled. "Princess Maris, what brings you here?" "Loras, I need your help," she said, urgency evident in her voice. "I discovered something in the library. A map leading to an ancient cave where the Heart of the Dragon may be." Loras's eyes sparkled with interest. "The Heart of the Dragon? I've heard tales of it, but I never thought it was real. What does it mean for you?" "It means that perhaps we can restore the connection with Balerion. He needs to fly again." "Westeros needs him," Maris replied, her passion growing in her voice. "But I can't go alone. The nobles are conspiring, and I need someone I trust by my side." Loras hesitated for a moment but soon nodded. "I'll be with you, Maris. If this artifact can help bring the dragon back, I can't stand idle. Let's go together." With a renewed sense of purpose, Maris smiled at Loras. "Thank you. We leave at dawn. We need to be quick before they discover our plans." And so, with the map in hand and an ally by her side, Maris felt a spark of hope reignite. She knew the journey would be perilous, but the determination in her heart was stronger than the fears that surrounded her. "Together, we will find what we need," she asserted, feeling that with Loras, she was one step closer to bringing Balerion back to the skies. Maris walked through the dense forest, the sounds of birds and the rustling of leaves accompanying her steps. Beside her, Loras, the young knight, kept a watchful eye, always alert for potential dangers. The tension in the air was palpable. The quest for her uncle's legacy guided her, but the growing instability in Westeros weighed heavily on her shoulders. "Are you sure this cave still exists?" Loras asked, his tone mixing curiosity and concern. He had become an unexpected ally, but the distrust surrounding his lineage still lingered between them. "Yes," Maris replied without hesitation. The ancient tomes spoke of it. "If we find what's inside, we may better understand what happened to Balerion and why he refuses to fly." She looked at him, trying to convey confidence, but her mind was filled with doubts. "We need to understand the legacy we left behind." Loras nodded, but the weight of the past followed him. "And if what we find isn't what we expected? What if it's just more pain?" He hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. "My family has a history of treachery. I don't want you to trust me just because I'm a knight. Who I am may not be enough." Maris stopped, looking him in the eye. "It doesn't matter what your ancestors did. What matters is who you are now. And I trust you, Loras. A timid smile appeared on his face but was soon replaced by determination. We need to continue. As they moved forward, the environment began to change. The forest grew denser and the air felt heavier. After hours of walking, they finally spotted the entrance to the cave. The rock was dark and imposing, as if guarding secrets that time refused to reveal. It's here, Maris murmured, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. Let's find the answers we need. Inside the cave, darkness enveloped them, and only the light from the torches Loras lit illuminated the way. The walls were covered in ancient inscriptions, and Maris approached, studying them closely. Look at this, she exclaimed, touching one of the inscriptions. It speaks of the heart of the dragon. It says it's an artifact that can restore the connection between the Targaryens and their dragons. Loras stepped closer, his eyes shining with interest. Do you think this can help Balerion? It's all we have, Maris replied, a mix of hope and anxiety in her voice. If we can find it, it may be the key to bringing the dragon back. As they explored the cave, ancient traps began to reveal themselves, testing their skills and the mutual trust they were building. Maris dodged a nearly invisible wire, and Loras followed, admiring her agility. You're bolder than you seem, he remarked, a smile of admiration forming on his face. I can't afford to be afraid, Maris replied, determination evident in her voice. The future of Westeros depends on this. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of exploration, they found the artifact, a glowing object pulsing with ancient energy. Maris reached out, hesitating for a moment. What if this is dangerous? What if it leads us to a dark fate? We need to take the risk, Loras said, encouraging her. If we don't try, we'll be condemned to live under fear and betrayal. With one last look of determination, Maris touched the artifact. Instantly, visions began to surge in her mind, Aegon and Balerion flying together, in perfect harmony, the sky illuminated by the dragon's flames. Emotion washed over her like a wave, and tears filled her eyes. Aegon, he always believed Balerion could fly again, she whispered, her voice choked. Then we need to make this happen, Loras affirmed, his presence beside her a pillar of support. We need to unite what has been broken. If Balerion flies again, he will be a symbol of hope, not just for you, but for the entire realm. Maris nodded, determination growing within her. The path ahead was filled with uncertainties, but one thing was clear, the connection with Balerion and the struggle for her lineage were just beginning. They were not just about power, but about the true essence of what it meant to be Targaryen. And so, with the artifact in hand, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. Maris felt her heart race as she held the artifact in her hands. The heart of the dragon, a shimmering object glowing with an amber light, seemed to pulse in tune with her very essence. As her fingers touched the cool, smooth surface, a wave of energy coursed through her body, sending shivers down her spine. She closed her eyes, and the vision overtook her mind. Before her, the image of Aegon and Balerion emerged. The two were in perfect harmony, flying over the vast fields of Westeros, their bodies in sync, as if they were one being. Aegon, clad in shining armor, was a symbol of strength and courage, while Balerion, majestic and fearsome, challenged the clouds with his massive wings. We protect this land, Aegon murmured, his voice echoing in the wind. Our souls are intertwined, and so it shall be forever. Maris opened her eyes, the image still vivid in her memory. She turned to Loras, who was watching her with a mix of reverence and curiosity. Did you see that too? She asked, her voice trembling. Loras nodded, still absorbing the intensity of the moment. It was as if the very past was alive before us. What do you think that means? I think we should bring Balerion back to the sky, Maris replied, determination growing within her. His connection to Aegon is deeper than I imagined. If we can unite the two again, maybe we can restore hope to Westeros. Loras frowned, his gaze becoming contemplative. But how will we do that? The dragon is injured, both physically and emotionally. He hasn't flown in so long. We need to find a way to heal his pain. He needs to understand that he is not to blame for Aegon's death. Aegon always believed in him, and I believe in him too, Maris said, her voice filled with conviction. Do you really believe you can convince him? Loras asked, a bit skeptical but admiring her courage. If we don't try, we'll never know, Maris replied, gripping the artifact in her hand. History teaches us that the Targaryens and their dragons are connected in ways beyond understanding. It is our duty to restore that connection. Loras looked at her with admiration. So, what do we do now? We need to go back and prepare a plan. Maris hesitated, recalling the words she had read about the sacrifices the Targaryen lineage faced throughout history. We must learn more about our ancestors' history. What else can we learn about the power of dragons and how to restore their connection with House Targaryen? I agree, Loras said, his determination growing. Let's investigate more about this artifact and other legends that can guide us. Yes, let's go together. We can't let more time pass. The realm needs us, Maris affirmed, more determined than ever. As they prepared to leave the cave, Maris felt a wave of hope. Despite the weight of the responsibilities on their shoulders, she knew the journey was just beginning. Together, they would decipher the past and find a way to unite Balerion with his legacy, not just for Aegon, but for all who still believed in House Targaryen. Let's go, Loras said, offering his hand to Maris. The future of Westeros depends on us. With a determined nod, Maris took his hand, and together they left the cave, ready to face the challenges ahead. The connection to the past had been established, and now it was time to fight for a future that united all hopes of Westeros under the wings of Balerion. The sun was beginning to set over Westeros, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple as Maris and Loras approached Lord Malvern's fortress. Shadows stretched across the field, and the atmosphere was charged with tension. As they walked, Maris felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. We need to act cautiously, Loras. Lord Malvern and his allies are cunning, she said, observing the imposing structure rising before them. I agree, Princess. But we also can't stand still while they plot against us. With each passing day, the realm becomes more vulnerable, Loras replied, his eyes fixed on the fortress. He had always been a determined young knight, and the resolve in his gaze reflected the urgency of the situation. As they approached the entrance, Maris noticed a group of nobles gathered in a room lit by torches, their whispering voices betraying the gravity of the conversation. Let's hide and listen to what they're planning, Loras suggested, pulling her behind a stone pillar. Maris nodded, her heart racing. Carefully, they squeezed between the shadows, trying to catch every word. We need to act before the young princess can reunite the Targaryens, said a gray-haired noble, his voice low but firm. Maris's connection to Balerion is a direct threat to our control. If the dragon takes to the skies again, it will be the end of our influence. She's just a girl, we shouldn't underestimate her, warned another, more cautious. But we must ensure our plan is in motion. If we can eliminate one of Aegon's allies, her confidence will wane. Maris exchanged a worried glance with Loras. They're plotting something against one of ours. We need to warn our allies and stop them, she whispered, fear mingling with determination. Let's follow and find out who the target is. If we can save him, we'll have a better chance of destabilizing their plans, Loras suggested, his expression resolute. Maris nodded, and together they left the protection of the shadow, determined to find a way to thwart the nobles. As they moved away from the fortress, they spotted a group of knights approaching. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, Maris and Loras hid behind a bush. It's an ally of Aegon, Maris exclaimed, recognizing the shining armor of Ser Jorvin, one of the nobles loyal to House Targaryen. However, the knights were not alone. One of the conspiratorial nobles, Montrell, was leading the attack, his cold eyes shining with malice. Get him! He must not escape, Montrell shouted, gesturing to the other knights. Maris's heart raced. We need to intervene, she said, already preparing to act. It's dangerous, Maris. We need to be clever, Loras warned, but the princess's determination was stronger than her fear. We can't let them capture him. Let's go! With that, they emerged from the shadows, Loras drawing his sword and Maris wielding a dagger she had found in her cave. A scream echoed as they attacked, surprise overtaking the conspiratorial nobles. "Defend yourself, Ser Jorvan," Maris shouted as she charged at one of the enemy knights. The battle was fierce, blades clashing and the sound of metal ringing out across the field. Loras fought alongside Maris, his swordsmanship proving invaluable as he blocked a deadly blow aimed at their ally. "Thank you, Loras. Come on, we need to protect Ser Jorvan," Maris yelled, adrenaline surging through her veins. Together, they formed a shield around the noble, fending off the attacks. The battle intensified, and Maris felt the strength of her lineage awaken within her. "For House Targaryen," she cried out, the determination in her voice seeming to inspire Loras, who fought with renewed vigor. With a swift movement, he disarmed one of the nobles, leaving him on the ground, while Maris faced Montrell, who regarded her with disdain. "You cannot win, girl. Power does not belong to you," he shouted, lunging forward with a treacherous strike. But Maris, with her indomitable spirit, dodged and counterattacked, hitting him with her dagger and causing him to stumble. In the end, most of the conspiratorial nobles were either scattered or captured. Ser Jorvan, panting, turned to Maris and Loras, his gaze filled with gratitude. "You saved my life. I thank you both. We need to unite and return to the safety of the fortress," he said, his voice heavy with respect and admiration. Maris looked at Loras, feeling the strength of the connection forming between them. "Together, we can change the fate of Westeros," she affirmed, her heart pulsing with hope and determination. The battle had only been the beginning, but the flame of the fight for House Targaryen was alight, and she knew that the struggle for unity and peace was just beginning. Maris surveyed the battlefield, now silenced after the storm of steel and fire that had descended upon them. The echoes of screams and the clang of swords still reverberated in her mind as she walked, her steps heavy and hesitant. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of red that seemed to reflect the flames Balerion had unleashed. It was a tragic beauty, a reminder that war and pain were always present in her family's history. She moved away from Loras, who was speaking with the few survivors recovering from the fight. He seemed so serene, so confident in his instincts. Maris, on the other hand, was tormented by doubts. What are we really fighting to preserve, she thought. Is House Targaryen a symbol of hope or oppression? The words of her uncle Aegon echoed in her mind, filled with promises of protection and unity, but now they seemed distant, as if belonging to a time when honor still held a clear meaning. Maris stopped and looked at Loras, who approached her, noticing her distress. "What's wrong, princess?" "You seem lost," he said, concern in his eyes. "It's all this, Loras," Maris replied, gesturing to the field around them. "The fights, the deaths, and yet, I don't feel we're any closer to a safe future. The Targaryen lineage is marked by so much blood. Is it right for me to continue fighting for it?" Loras furrowed his brow, understanding the depth of her words. "The lineage is important, Maris, but what truly matters is what you do with that legacy. You can choose to break the cycle of pain and ambition that has consumed your ancestors' house. Do you think I should seek a new path?" She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the internal struggle she faced. "A path without dragons? Without the power they represent?" "That's not what I'm saying," Loras replied firmly. "The dragons are a part of who you are, of who we are. But you have the power to shape their meaning. We need Balerion, not just as a symbol, but as an ally. He can be the key to unifying the realm, not as an oppressive force, but as a symbol of hope." Loras' words penetrated deeply into Maris. She remembered the vision she had in the cave when she touched the heart of the dragon. The hope she felt seeing Aegon and Balerion together, harmonious, was something she could not ignore. "You're right," she said, a new light in her eyes. "We need to bring Balerion back. He needs to fly again." "But how will we do that?" Loras asked, concerned. "The dragon is wounded in his soul. He doesn't fly because of the pain he carries from the loss of his rider." Maris took a deep breath, resolute. "We need to confront him. I have to show him that Aegon wouldn't have wanted him to be trapped in his sorrow. He needs to understand that there is still a purpose for his life." "It's a difficult task," Loras said, but there was a note of admiration in his voice. "You have courage, Maris. I will stand by you, as always." She smiled, feeling strengthened by his presence. "Then let's go, Loras. We have much to do. Balerion needs to know that the flame of the Targaryen still burns and that he is a vital part of that legacy." Together, they moved away from the battlefield, renewed determination in their hearts. Maris knew that the path ahead would be filled with challenges, but the idea of uniting her fate with Balerion and Aegon's legacy was a flame that could not be extinguished. It was time to face the dragon and reignite hope not just for herself, but for all of Westeros. Maris approached the cave where Balerion rested, the imposing black dragon shrouded in shadows and memories of a glorious past. The air around was heavy, laden with sorrow and palpable tension. The rocky ground trembled beneath her feet, and she felt the heat radiating from the massive body of the dragon, as if the very fire of his soul was suffocated by the pain of loss. The young princess took a deep breath, her determination renewed by the memory of Aegon and the urgency of her mission. "Balerion," Maris began, her voice soft yet firm. "I come seeking you. The realm needs you. I need you." The colossal creature slowly raised its head, its yellow eyes deep as wells, watching her with a mixture of distrust and irreparable pain. The dragon remained silent, as if the weight of mourning kept him trapped in darkness. She stepped forward, feeling the warmth of his body. "Do you remember Aegon? He always believed you were more than a weapon, more than a symbol of power. You were his family, his strength." Maris hesitated, searching for the right words. "He trusted you, Balerion. And I trust you too." The dragon narrowed his eyes, and a heavy breath echoed through the cave. "Trust," Balerion murmured in a grave tone that reverberated like thunder. "What have I done if not fail? He trusted me, and I couldn't protect him. I failed." The pain in Balerion's voice was palpable, an open wound that seemed to burn even more fiercely than the flames he once exhaled. "You did not fail," Maris insisted, feeling the urgency grow within her. "Aegon made his own choices. He was willing to sacrifice himself for all of us. He believed that the dragon and the rider were one, united in a greater purpose. You can still honor that legacy. You need to fly again." The dragon shook his head, denying with a soft rumble that reverberated through the stones around them. "Fly? For what? To bring more destruction? To bring more pain? What am I without him?" His voice was a mix of anger and sorrow, reflecting the tumultuous inner battle in his heart. Maris stepped forward, determined to face the emotional storm the dragon was experiencing. "You are Balerion, the Black Terror, and you are the last of your lineage. You have the power to unite the peoples of Westeros. If you do not fly, the realm will lose hope. The rival houses will dare to take what remains, and Aegon's memory will fade into the shadows of the past. You are the key to your redemption." Balerion looked deeply at her, his eyes shining with an intense light of emotion. "What do you know of pain, girl? You do not know the weight of loss." "I know more than you can imagine," Maris replied, her voice steady. "I lost my uncle, and with him, a part of my heart. But I know he wouldn't want you to give up. He would want you to fly, to be strong for him and for all of us. Aegon believed in you. He would give anything to see you free again." The dragon fell silent, reflecting on Maris's words. The young princess felt she was connecting to something deep within him, a spark of hope beginning to glow. "Do you really believe I can still make a difference?" he asked, the vulnerability in his voice almost breaking Maris's heart. "Yes," she affirmed fervently. "You can bring hope back to Westeros. You can restore what was lost, not just for us, but for yourself. Aegon always believed in your power. Now, you need to believe too." The weight of Maris's words hung in the air, and for a moment, the dragon was silent, as if weighing the meaning of the trust being offered to him. The heat of the cave seemed to intensify as Maris's determination grew. "Fly, Balerion," she pleaded, "to honor Aegon, to honor yourself. The sky still needs you." And for the first time since Aegon's death, something changed in Balerion. The spark of hope began to ignite, and he felt that perhaps there was a way to free himself from his grief. "For Aegon," the dragon whispered, his voice softer. "For the legacy he left." The sky over Westeros, once gray and threatening, began to light up with an orange hue, reflecting the hope that Maris had ignited in his heart and in Balerian's. After the battle against the ambitious nobles, the young princess felt that the decisive moment had arrived. With the strength of her convictions and the memories of her uncle, she approached the black dragon, who now regarded her with a mix of disdain and sadness. "Balerian," she began, her voice firm yet soft as the whisper of the wind, "you are the last of the greats. The kingdom needs you. I need you. Aegon always believed in your strength. You are more than a dragon, you are a symbol of hope." The dragon, with scales like obsidian, looked at her, his deep eyes reflecting a pain that she couldn't fully comprehend. "What am I now, Maris?" "A guardian who has failed. Aegon is gone, and I cannot fly like before. The weight of his loss is unbearable." "But you have not failed, Balerian," Maris exclaimed, stepping forward, determined. "You fought alongside him, and he always knew you were his greatest strength. Don't let guilt consume you. If you don't fly again, we won't just lose you, the whole kingdom will lose hope. We need you to unite our people, to show that the Targaryen lineage still lives." The dragon let out a deep roar, echoing through the cave and reverberating in the surrounding mountains. "You don't understand, little princess. Every time I close my eyes, I see the battle where Aegon fell. I was there and couldn't protect him. How can I fly knowing he is no longer with me?" Maris moved even closer, now just a few steps from the colossal dragon, feeling the heat radiating from his body. "Because he still lives in you, Balerian. His spirit, his strength, all of that is still present. Together, we can honor him. Together, we can restore peace to Westeros. Please, don't let the pain keep you here, in a dark past." She saw a flicker of doubt in the dragon's eyes and seized the opportunity. "Remember what you both represented. Remember the fields you crossed, the victories you won. Balerian, you have the power to unite this kingdom again, to bring hope to all of us." The dragon seemed to hesitate, the strength of his inner emotions reflected in his imposing presence. "And if I fail again? And if the pain repeats? Then we will fight together," Maris replied, determination burning in her voice. "No matter what happens, you will never be alone. We honor Aegon by fighting for a better future. But for that, we need you to fly again." Silence enveloped the space, only the sound of Balerian's heavy breathing and the soft rustle of leaves in the wind could be heard. Finally, the dragon lifted his head, and a flame of determination began to shine in his eyes. "If you believe so much, princess, perhaps I should try. But not for myself. For Aegon. And for you." With a powerful roar, Balerian rose, his enormous wings spreading and creating a deafening sound, like thunder. Maris stepped back, feeling the energy radiating in the cave. The dragon looked to the sky, now tinged with red and orange, and with a surge of strength, he took to the air. The moment was magical, his black body cut through the air, and the flames he exhaled illuminated the surroundings, creating a spectacle of light. As he soared, the sky transformed, and the sight of the dragon flying again brought tears to Maris's eyes. She smiled, feeling hope bloom in her heart. Balerian was more than a dragon, he was the embodiment of resilience, of Aegon's struggle and love. "Fly, Balerian!" Maris shouted, her voice echoing as the dragon traced a majestic arc in the sky, leaving behind a trail of fire. "Show us all that the Targaryen era still lives." And so, under the light of the new day, the black dragon danced among the clouds, and hope blossomed in every heart in Westeros. The sight was one of beauty and power, and the promise of a bright future began to take shape. The union of Maris and Balerian symbolized not only the rebirth of a lineage but the promise of a new path for all who inhabited the realm. As Balerian cut through the skies of Westeros, the impact of his flight awakened hopes and fears in the lands below. Maris and Loras, now leaders of a movement promising a different future for the kingdom, gathered with their allies in an ancient stone tower, away from the treacherous eyes of the nobles. The sunlight filtered through the cracks, illuminating the determined faces gathered around a scarred wooden table. "We need to act quickly," Maris began, her gaze steady. "Today's victory has brought hope, but it has also awakened the ire of Lord Malvern and his allies. They won't accept this new order without a fight." Loras nodded, his face serious. "Malvern is cunning. He will ally with whoever is necessary to bring down House Targaryen once and for all. If we don't unite, what we've gained can be lost quickly." A murmur of concern swept through the room. One of the nobles, Lord Harlan, frowned. "And if he seeks the help of dark forces? Or even mercenaries? What do we know about Malvern's plans?" "He has a history of treacherous alliances," Maris replied as she looked at the map of Westeros spread out before her. "Our informants reported that he's been speaking with the Brothers of the Night, those who always wish for chaos." "We cannot allow this to happen," said a feminine voice, Lady Alira, an ally of Maris. "If Malvern manages to unite the nobles against us, we will be at a numerical disadvantage." "We need a plan," Loras interjected, his voice low and controlled. "We must make a peace proposal to the undecided nobles, offering them a place on our council. If they feel included, it will be harder for Malvern to convince them to join him." Maris nodded, but the concern still haunted her. What if they don't accept? What if their ambition is greater than their reason? "I've seen nobles fight among themselves just for power." At that moment, a loud knock on the door interrupted the meeting. One of the guards, breathless, entered the room. "My lady, we have news. Malvern is gathering his forces in the Elden Forest. He plans to march here." The room fell silent, the weight of the news hanging in the air. "Then it's now," Maris said, her determination growing. "We need to prepare for battle. Every man and woman who believes in a better future needs to stand by our side." "Let's gather our allies," Loras suggested with a determined look. "If we act quickly, we can surprise them before they organize." "And what if we don't succeed?" Harlan questioned, worry evident in his voice. "We might be underestimating Malvern's power." "And if we underestimate them, we'll be finished," Maris replied, her voice as firm as steel. "We cannot allow fear to paralyze us. We will do whatever it takes to protect our future." The hours that followed were a frenzy of preparation. Soldiers were summoned, armor was adjusted, and determination grew in every heart. Maris and Loras moved among the men, encouraging them to fight not just for their lives, but for a future where tyranny would not reign. When night fell, the tension was palpable. Maris watched the full moon, reflecting on what was to come. "Are we ready?" she asked Loras, who was by her side. "Ready and determined, my princess," he replied, his eyes shining with a fervor she had not seen before. "We will fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." "Then let's go, for Westeros and for Aegon," said Maris, hope mingling with anxiety. "This battle is not just ours. It is for all those who believe that a better future is possible." Destiny awaited them in the Elden Forest, and with each step they took toward the unknown, they felt that the true fight was just beginning. The battlefield was engulfed in a deafening chaos, the sound of swords clashing and the cries of the wounded echoing everywhere. The dust raised by the horses and warriors made it hard to see, but in the heart of the tumult, Maris and Loras fought side by side, determined to defend the legacy of the Targaryens. The tension hung in the air, and the young princess felt the weight of every movement, every choice she made. "Maris, we need to retreat." "They're organizing again," shouted Loras, breathless, as he cut down an approaching enemy. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but his gaze remained steady. "We can't. We have to hold the line," Maris replied, wielding her own sword with determination. The weight of history was on her shoulders, and she could not fail. As they fought, the battle intensified when Lord Malvern, the main adversary, stood out among the ranks of soldiers. With a look of disdain, he shouted orders, trying to consolidate his power over the nobles in his alliance. Maris felt a chill run down her spine as she realized that victory was far from guaranteed. "You cannot defeat what does not have the strength of the past," Maris shouted at Malvern, rage pulsing in her veins. "House Targaryen will rise again." "You speak bravely, but you are merely a lost girl in a world of men. Malvern replied, laughing scornfully. Just accept your fate and surrender. At that moment, the battlefield was illuminated by an intense light. Maris looked up, and her heart raced. Balerion, the black dragon, descended from the skies, his immense wings casting shadows over the combatants. The roar of the dragon made the earth tremble, and all eyes turned to the sky, astonished. Now is the time, Maris, exclaimed Loras, realizing that Balerion's presence could change the course of the battle. Call him. He's listening to you. Maris took a deep breath and, with a voice that carried all the hope and determination she could muster, shouted, Balerion, come. The kingdom needs you. Together, we can bring peace back to Westeros. The dragon hesitated for a moment, its scales gleaming under the sunlight, before it launched to the ground in a terrifying splendor. The impact made the earth shake, and the rival nobles recoiled, terrified. You have nothing to fear, Balerion. Maris continued, her emotions overflowing. Aegon always believed in you. Honor his legacy and fight alongside us. The dragon, with its imposing presence, looked at Maris, and for an instant, the connection between them was palpable. I have failed, Maris. He was my friend, my knight. I could not protect him, Balerion replied, its voice deep and sorrowful like distant thunder. No, you have not failed. You are the strength that can unite this kingdom. Aegon always believed that you would soar again. Please, do this for him and for all of us. Maris implored, tears in her eyes. With a powerful roar that echoed across the field, Balerion rose, its wings spread like a portal to the sky. The battle around seemed to pause, and for a moment everyone was absorbed in the dragon's majesty. Then, it launched into the air, a spectacle of fire and fury. The flames danced around it, and the light illuminated the faces of the warriors, transforming despair into hope. As Balerion dove, Malvern, surrounded by his troops, tried to maintain his composure. This dragon cannot save us. He is a relic of the past, he shouted, but his confidence was wavering. Balerion descended like a meteor, its sharp claws slicing through the air. It lunged at Malvern, who, in a last act of desperation, brandished his sword. I will not let you take me down, he shouted, but his bravery was in vain. The dragon, in an agile movement, engulfed him in flames, and Malvern's scream was lost in the vastness of the sky. The field fell silent. The battle ceased, and the people of Westeros watched, astonished and hopeful, as Balerion flew once more. Maris, with tears of joy, looked at Loras. We did it. He's back. Yes, and now it's time to rebuild, Loras replied, watching the dragon soar through the sky. You are the new leader, Maris. Aegon would be proud. With victory by his side, Maris raised his sword in a gesture of triumph. Together, we will build a new kingdom. A kingdom of peace and unity. And so, under the watchful gaze of Balerion, Maris not only inherited Aegon's legacy but also opened a new chapter for Westeros, where revenge would not be the only path to follow, but rather the light of hope that would illuminate the future. Good night and enchanted dreams.